Hello, welcome to Jason O Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking here in my basement in the great state of Kansas, and I am doing an impromptu live stream on the channel. I wasn't really planning on doing this, but I just felt like I needed to get some stuff off my chest, so I really want to do a live stream to talk about some movie questions that I had to defend the other day on another channel. And to get more into that specifically, I was on a YouTube channel of someone named Anthony Perez, and that's the name of his channel, Anthony Perez. And he invited me on to do this debate that he does, these debate shows where he has two YouTubers uh, debate a topic, a movie topic, and then they have three judges, and the three judges get to decide who made the better arguments for whatever they picked. And then you have 8 rounds, but 8 question, 8 rounds. Whoever wins 5 rounds wins the debate. Anyway, so it's a best of five. I have 8 questions. And so, yeah, so I did that yesterday on Anthony Perez's channel. I ended up having to debate against Sin from Sin's Corner, her YouTube channel, which she's been on my channel before on my 20 questions series. Anyway, so yeah, so interesting idea behind the debate. You get a topic, you get 60 seconds to make your first argument or make your, what do you call your, what's the word? Your opening statement, I guess, your opening argument. You get 60 seconds. And then the other person gets 60 seconds to mention what their pick was and what their main argument is for theirs. And then it goes back to you, whatever. You have 30 seconds to rebuttal. You can either talk more about why you picked your pick, or you could even go after the other person's top or their pick and say why you think yours is better. And then they get 30 seconds. Then you get another 15-second rebuttal after that. So not a lot of time to really discuss these topics and to really answer these questions. 60 seconds goes by pretty quickly. You can get a couple of really quick points in before your time is done. So it's hard to really flesh out all your points. And 30 seconds, you get like one really good comment maybe in, or you maybe try to take down something the other person said. And then 15 seconds, you got like half of the idea out before your time is due. So it's not a lot of time to get your time out, so it's a very a lot of pressure trying to think of what to say, how to argue your point before your time runs out. And yeah, so a little bit of a stressful situation I never really had to do before. Anyway, so it's my first time doing this kind of debate thing. Anyway, so yeah, we did this debate, had 8 questions we went through, and I kind of want to go through these questions and what my answers were, and kind of talk more about why I gave these answers and why I still think I think I did a good job debating my answers and gave good points and all that. Anyway, so let's kind of go through that a little bit. Anyway, so go through these one by one. First question was, the first topic we had to debate was, who is the most underrated actor / actress working today? I picked Paul Dano as my choice. Sin picked an actor named David, and then it's hard to pronounce his last name. He has like a weird last name, and so it's like Dalhousen or something. I won't remember how to pronounce it, so I'll just call him David. What's his name? Who I think Sin picked a really good one. I thought that was actually a really good choice by Sin, because he is an actor that haven't seen him in a lot of stuff. Mostly I remember him from Suicide Squad. He played like Polka Dot Guy, and I know he was like a real small part in Ant-Man. And then recently he was like the lead, I guess, in Late Night with the Devil, which I haven't seen, but I've heard about. People like that movie. And he's an actor. Again, he's like one of these character actors that you kind of see every once in a while and you go, oh yeah, that guy. And that he does a good job when he's in a movie. He just usually plays somewhat smaller parts. And anyways, and so Sin went through her thing about him and how he kind of plays more quirky characters. He's, kind of darker characters, very challenging characters, whatever. And she kind of went through the same arguments I was going to make about Paul Dano. He's kind of the same guy. Like he's maybe a little more well known than David what's his name, but he usually plays more character actor roles, not really leads usually. And he usually picks more quirky characters and more, like I said, sometimes dark, disturbing characters and very challenging characters. And again, he's like one of those guys that show up in a movie and you go, "Oh, Paul Dano's in this." Like, "Oh wow, I like him." At least that's what I always feel like every time. I sometimes I don't know he's in a movie and I go, "Oh, Paul Dano's in this. That's cool." And usually Paul Dano steals like every scene he's in. That's why I picked him on mine, because Paul Dano's like one of my favorite actors right now. That anytime he's in a movie, I'm like, "Oh man, I know he's going to give a really good performance and he's going to be the best part of the movie." And yet he's not going to be a huge superstar. He doesn't necessarily have the good looks of a superstar, like, a leading, like a Tom Cruise type, or something. But he's just one of those guys that, man, he picks really interesting roles, I think, and does such a great job. And I said in my arguments, like, I remember seeing him first in Little Miss Sunshine. He was a teenager. He played like a teenager who uh, had a vow of silence until he got into like the Air Academy or something. And he's kind of, I want to say, kind of emo teenager or something along those lines. And he had to write everything because he didn't want to talk. That's the first time I saw him. I noticed him. And then like 2 years later, he was in There Will Be Blood, acting across from Daniel Day-Lewis, one of our greatest actors working today. And he went toe to toe with Daniel Day-Lewis, I felt like, in that movie. And they had a lot of really good scenes together. And I thought he gave a really great performance in that movie and should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor. It's kind of crazy that I said like I said, when I had time to talk about my arguments, was that Paul Dano should have been nominated for an Oscar for one of his movies. And it's crazy that he's never been nominated. David What's His Name hasn't really given an Oscar type performance like Paul Dano has. I think he's definitely given some better performances overall. And then you go through, like I said, that was one of his biggest roles. He was in a movie called Prisoners, where he played kind of this mentally challenged young person who maybe murdered a kid or is maybe a kid murderer. We don't know. And Hugh Jackman's like gotten captured and is torturing him to get information because he thinks he maybe kidnapped his kid. And it's definitely a very quirky character, very kind of disturbing character because we don't know if he's a kid murderer. And very interesting character overall. I think really good performance by Paul Dano as well in that one. Even though I wasn't like a huge fan of the movie, I thought he definitely was like the best part of that movie. Then you can go to Love and Mercy. I think another really great performance by Paul Dano, playing Brian Wilson during Brian Wilson's like younger days in the '60s, as he was making pet sounds and stuff like that. And man, this is definitely the most lead performance he's ever had, I feel like. And again, though, Brian Wilson is a very interesting person who had some psychological issues, and I think he really did that really well. Plus, he was singing in the movie as Brian Wilson, and I don't know if he's playing the piano as well in some scenes. And so I thought he did, man, a really good job playing Brian Wilson, who was another kind of challenging character that almost felt like a should have been a star-making vehicle for Paul Dano kind of movie, but I feel like it didn't get much recognition. But he did an amazing job there as well. And then I'll just mention the big movie that he did recently was The Batman, where he played the Riddler. And I thought he was the best part of that movie. I wasn't a huge fan of the Batman. I really didn't like Robert Pattinson as Batman, but Paul Dano played a great Riddler. And it was a different style of Riddler because he felt more like a serial killer Riddler than the kind of more outrageous, goofy Riddler that we get out of like Jim Carrey or the Adam West Batman TV show. But yeah, he brought something new to that character that made that character one of the great villains I've ever seen in a superhero movie, and formidable foe of Batman. Yeah, just a great, like I said, just a great interpretation of that character. And he was very disturbing type of, like I said, serial killer style character. I thought he did such a great job with that role. Hey, Mike, I know I just talked to you just a little bit ago. But yeah, again, I think he should have got nominated for an Oscar. I thought he did such a good job as the Riddler. And yeah, so anyways, so I still stand by Paul Dano. I think is such an underrated actor. I think he should have been nominated for multiple Oscars. I hope he gets more roles. He was also in The Fabelmans as well recently. All this. And my only, again, David, what's his name, is a fine pick, but I think Paul Dano's just given a lot more better performances than him, so that's why I'd still go with Paul Dano. But that's just my opinion on the matter. Mike, see, yeah, I just saw you. I saw you like 20 minutes ago. Yeah, we will collab again, Mike. Yeah. So that was the first question. That was my arguments for Paul Dano as the most underrated actor, I think, working today. So yeah, so we did our arguments, and I felt really good about my arguments. Actually, I thought I could win this round. I thought I did a pretty good job talking about Paul Dano and all this stuff. You know, I was feeling pretty not too bad. I was a little nervous, I will admit. Like before we started the stream, I was a little nervous about the whole thing because there's a performance there where it's like I'm pressured to perform and to come up with good answers, and I'm competing against somebody. You know, all those kind of stuff. Even though it's all for fun, still there's some pressure there. But anyways, so we did all that, and then the three judges. So we had three judges. Anthony Perez was one of them because he's the host, of course. Rashad G from Rashad G Reviews was on there, who I've collaborated quite a bit. I know him pretty well. The third judge is somebody I never met before. I think his name was Jeremy. Don't know him. Anyways, he was like the third judge, and I don't know anything about him except that he knows Anthony. Anyway, so we do our arguments and everything, and then we go to the judges, okay, which is interesting. And I know this guy, I think his name's Jeremy. I think he went and immediately like criticized what I said and like my arguments, and kind of broke down that I didn't do a very good job with my arguments or something like that. I just remember I was kind of getting criticized, and I immediately was like, oh no, this is not good. Like I don't like this at all. And it was just, I don't know, I just had this really bad feeling when I heard him talk about what I said, and I was like, oh God, I didn't think about how much I don't like people criticize me, and I forgot about that until that moment. I was like, oh, I really don't like this. I don't like being criticized. And my heart started beating really fast, and I kind of had like a panic attack or something like that, because I just like, if you watch the video, I take my hat off, I have my head down, I'm just kind of, my chest felt like it was just, my heart was just beating out my chest, and I just had so much anxiety all of a sudden. Like the anxiety just went up to 11 on me. It's like I was already kind of had some anxiety, and then it was shot up. Anyways, and so of course he went with Sin, and then the other two went with Sin. So all three of them just went with Sin. So I got beat 3-0. Like all three judges criticized my arguments, said Sin did a better job. So she won that first round. And yeah, that about killed me. I was just like sitting there going, oh my God, like I feel like I can't go on. I don't know. It was just a horrible feeling. I don't know how to explain it. It was just like, I just couldn't think straight. I was just kind of panicking. Yeah, it was just a horrible feeling. And I hate that happened to me, like during that whole thing, because I didn't want that to happen. And so I was like, what am I going to do now? Like, how can I keep going on when I'm having this anxiety attack or whatever that's hitting me? And I don't know. It was hard, and I was probably showing it, and and we're getting to the next topic, and I was always like, man, I want to give up. I want to quit this thing. I don't like doing this debate thing. I don't like these judges, judging me. It's like, I don't know. It just was a bad thing all around. And so we were doing that, and I was like, I don't know, what do I say? I was like, I don't know what to tell him. So I think I said, like, I just got a lot of anxiety right now, and I'm struggling or something anyways. And I think Anthony knows I was really having a hard time and all that. And so he gave me a minute to like kind of compose myself. And I really thought about quitting. I was really close to just going, I can't do this. It's just too much pressure. It's too much anxiety on me to try to do this anyways. But I didn't want to quit, because Anthony Perez was nice enough to invite me onto this channel to do this debate thing. And if I quit, I thought, gosh, I'm ruining this whole episode, whatever, this whole thing. Because if I quit and I'm gone, then it's like, well, Sin has no one to debate. And that's the whole point of the whole thing, is I'm supposed to be debating Sin. And so I'm like, gosh, if I quit, then that just ruins everything. And it's like, I don't want to ruin everything for Anthony, because he was, very nice on inviting me on. So I hate to do that to him. So I somehow was able to get myself together and continue on the debate and kind of try to push through, even though I would say my heart wasn't really in it anymore after that first round. I was like, gosh, I just want this to be over. It was just, I don't know. I'm ready for Sin just to beat me 5-0 and let's go home. And I need to relax and, try to calm myself down. But so so I was like, all right, I'll try to continue on. And so the second question is, what is the best film based on a DC comic character? And I had picked Batman Begins. Sin picked The Dark Knight. So interesting enough, we picked movies from the same, not just same character, but the same series. Like I picked the first movie of Christopher Nolan's trilogy, and Sin picked The Dark Knight, the second movie of the trilogy. So that was, I don't know, I was doomed as soon as I heard she picked The Dark Knight. I was like, well, I'm not winning this round. Like, there's no way I'm beating The Dark Knight. Even though I still hold that Batman Begins, I like that movie better than The Dark Knight. But I totally understand everybody loves The Dark Knight more than Batman Begins. It's a much more popular movie. 9.99% of everybody would pick The Dark Knight over The Batman Begins. I'm one of the few ones that would say Batman Begins is a better movie. I watch that more. I really like that movie. Anyways, and so I still stand by my arguments that I think Batman Begins is a better movie, but I know I'm never going to beat anybody in that debate. Like, no matter how good I am, I'm not beating The Dark Knight. That's just a phenomenon movie. It made a ton of money. Basically changed the Academy to pick 10 best picture categories because everybody thought The Dark Knight should have been nominated for best movie. So I mean, that movie really made a bigger impact than Batman Begins did, and yeah, everybody loves that movie. Anyway, so yeah, we get to that second question, and I was just out of it because I was having this anxiety attack, and all of a sudden I was like, oh man, I now got to come up with some way to try to remember my argument points, and I don't think I did a very good job because I was just not in it at the moment, but so I'll take this time to say what I thought about Batman Begins compared to Dark Knight. I love Batman Begins. It's my favorite Batman movie. Batman's probably my favorite superhero character. I love the Batman character itself. And I thought this movie and I would even say this is the best origin story I've ever seen of any movie. How they really explain who Batman is, how he came to be Batman, why he does what he does. It does such an amazing job of explaining all of that. Besides having a really good paced movie that had a lot of good action scenes, and I think get really great performances all around. All that. The only other movies I can compare this to, as far as origin stories go, is Iron Man was a really good origin story. I put that probably second. And then that was really the only two I can think of top of mind that I really love. Because origin stories can be very boring because a lot of times origin stories is you get the person before they're a superhero, and so you have to have this long, boring intro to like how they become the superhero, and all you're thinking is, I just want to see the superhero. I don't care about the part where they're not the superhero. So the beginnings of a lot of origin stories can be very boring, but this movie starts with an action scene where he's like in a prison and he gets attacked by other prisoners, and he has this really cool action scene. I remember when I saw this movie the first time, that first action sequence, I was like, that was really good, and that's just the first scene in the movie. And it gets even better from there. So like that was a great way to begin the movie, and you go, all right, we're seeing how he becomes Batman, and we're already getting good action sequences, and like I said, paced very well. So I thought it did such a good job there. Some might say Spider-Man or Superman from '78. Those are okay, but I still think Batman Begins, Iron Man are by far the two best origin stories. And that's what I love about this Batman Begins movie is how they explain how he become Batman, how he's this, of course, we already know about the parents dying, and then he wants to, try to save other people. So, he wants to fight crime in honor of like his parents, and kind of not get revenge, but try to avenge what happened to them, I guess, in some way. Anyway, so that's all we all know about that. It's, a good motivation for the character. But then we get into how he gets into like the secret ninja society with Ra's al Ghul, played by Liam Neeson, and how he trains to be a ninja. That's such a cool scene when he's being trained. There's a lot of good stuff. Ice, sword fighting on ice. He's learning how to be stealthy because Batman's really good at stealth, sneaking in and grabbing people. And so you watch it and you go, okay, this is how he's Batman, because he's a super ninja. He's just like this elite ninja. And I thought that was just a good explanation of like, okay, now I understand why he's so good at hand-to-hand fighting, because they really spend a lot of time with this whole backstory of how he learns how to do all that, and also how to use like powder, I think, to like, to hide himself. He just knows all these tricks on how to do all that. So that was good. All that kind of explained that part of it. And then when he gets back to his company, Wayne Manors, whatever, there's this whole military branch of his company, headed by Lucius, whatever, played by Morgan Freeman. And he's got all this like military technology kind of stuff that he uses to be Batman. Like there's like this super suit kind of thing, this body armor that they were developing for the army, but it was too expensive. So they developed it, but the government's not going to buy it because it's too expensive to buy, each one for, all these men in the army, whatever. And so Batman takes that suit, this body armor suit that Lucius developed, and that comes like the basics of Batman. It's it's kind of bulletproof kind of armor, but yeah, he still moves really good in it, and that's how he comes, because he has to be a ninja and all that. So that's a good explanation how he gets kind of the Batman suit and how he develops that. He's got the cape, and it's like, why does Batman have a cape? Well, there's this technology that they developed that if you like put this electricity or something like that into the cape, it stiffens, and then you can use the cape as a glider. And so that's such a great use of the cape, because when you watch Batman, you're like, why does he have, I guess his use of the cape is to glide around. Besides, why would he have a cape? And this really explains like, oh, this technology makes it so, and he always needs it because he's always, running around on buildings and stuff. And there's always these moments where he needs that glider. And so that explains like, okay, I totally understand why he has a cape and how that works. That's a good explanation for that. And, he's got the batarangs, which I think more like throwing stars, maybe more the ninja thing. But anyways, pretty much everything has a practical use that he uses. And it's so explained where I go, yeah, that all makes sense why he has all this. And even you have like instead of the Batmobile, he has the Tumbler or something like that, which is just this big military like vehicle that can go through walls, and it has like a grappling thing. And it's like, yeah, Batman needs that. In fact, we see a whole scene where he's being chased and he has to use that Tumbler to get away. So it was, I think, a really good, instead of having the Batmobile, the Tumbler was a good, and just again, it's a good explanation. It's like a military vehicle that they developed that now he's using. Anyway, so just to say, I thought they did such a good job of explaining who Batman is, why he's doing what he's doing, all that. I thought that was such a cool thing about the movie. Again, I thought a lot of good action sequences, like that good chase sequence. Also, you got a great villain in the Scarecrow. I thought it's one of my favorite villains from the Batman animation series. And Cillian Murphy, that's the first time I've ever seen Cillian Murphy in a movie. And I thought Cillian Murphy was so good. I was like, man, this guy is a good actor. And I'm so glad now to see that he won an Oscar for Oppenheimer. I've always thought he's another underrated actor. I could have used him as an underactor, but he's not underrated anymore because he just won an Oscar. So I can't use him as an underrated actor. But he was one of those guys to me, was such an underrated actor. He always stole every scene, gave great performances. Anyway, so loved him as the Scarecrow. I think Norman Crane, or whatever his name was. I like Katie Holmes as the girlfriend. I like that they had this relationship from the past, and they kind of revitalized that romantic relationship later. And I like how she says that thing, like, it's what you do that defines you. And then he uses that line later to her, and she knows, oh, Batman's Bruce Wayne. That's great. I mean, you got Gary Oldman, for goodness sakes, Michael Caine. I mean, man, this cast is good. Tom Wilkerson also. And even Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul was a really great character, and the whole thing of, him trying to take out all of Gotham, and Batman's trying to save Gotham from this guy who like trained him. I thought that was a good storytelling. And the whole last action sequence where he has to try to save the city from this gas and fight Ra's al Ghul at the end, and how he uses his surroundings to defeat Ra's al Ghul at the end. All great stuff. Very great ending. I thought Christian Bale was a great Batman. All that. Anyway, so that's my explanation. Batman Begins to me is just a perfect superhero movie where, again, it's just paced so well. Great action, some comedy, and not too much, but a little bit comedy here and there. that provides some, these stuff. Great cast, great performances, great villain. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like one scene is wasted in this movie. Now, Dark Knight. I know that's such a popular movie. I'm not a big fan of Dark Knight, and I know I'm in the minority there. And I will say, Heath Ledger is so good as a Joker. That is such a great performance. I'm so happy he won the Oscar. It's one of the best performances I've ever seen. And yeah, I think he totally deserved it. I thought it's probably the best portrayal we've seen of Joker, where he has a very disturbing look to him. It's a little bit different, kind of overall makeup look, very rough looking. And his voice is so good, the way he does his voice and just his mannerisms. Oh, perfect Joker, really. It's a different interpretation of Joker, really, from like the animated series, but I really liked his interpretation overall. And then, like I said, I'll talk about the Joker later, but I don't know. I think sometimes he can be kind of humorous at times, and he plays around with his victims, and at times he can be very disturbing and violent, and for no reason, just to be violent, and he's kind of psychotic. I don't know. It's such a great villain, but I'll get in that later. But yeah, I think his performance is great, but my problem with the movie is that the Joker character is just, he can do anything at any time, and there's no explanation how he does things. It's just, he just does it. For instance, he blows up a hospital. Like, how did he do that? Where did he get the explosives? How did he have time to put explosives all over this hospital enough to take it down? It just happens. He just pushes a button and he explodes it. And I'm really like, when did that happen? How did he do that? Like, that seems just, he makes it look too easy, and it's like, it feels like there should be more to that. There's even a scene where he like puts bombs on 2 different ships or whatever, and he has this thing where you can push the button to blow up the other ship. Like, when did he do that? How did he get those resources? Where does he get his resources? Why is he able to put bombs on these ships so they explode? And it's all very technologically advanced. Is he a genius? What is the Joker? We don't really understand who he is and how he gets to do all these things. It doesn't make any sense. There's one scene like I really don't like, and that is he's trying to take out this armored truck, whatever. I think that has maybe Harvey Dent in it, and he like pulls out a gun and shoots it. And of course, it does nothing because he picks out a bigger gun, still does nothing. Then he picks out a bazooka and to blow it up so he can get inside this armored truck. And I'm like, where did he get a bazooka? There should be some explanation. Like, he just happens to have a bazooka laying around. Like, that's not something people have laying around. So it just feels like anytime he needs something, he has it. And it's just felt a little too easy, I guess. And even the Joker character, it's like he's a human being, but yet there's this whole interrogation scene where Batman's like hitting his head, punching him, doing all these things. And the Joker just takes it and acts like it doesn't hurt. And he's kind of playing it off for laughs or something like that. And I'm like, those should hurt. And like, that should have been a scene where Batman intimidates Joker, but I don't know. It just didn't make sense that if he's a human being, why doesn't these punches hurt him? It didn't make any sense, that whole interrogation scene, in my opinion. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff like that I just didn't like about that character. The movie was too long, I feel like, compared to Batman Begins. Like I said, Batman Begins, very well paced. Dark Knight, it's a little too long, I think. And all that. Sorry. Again, to the Rachel character. Rachel, who Katie Holmes played in the first movie. I thought Katie Holmes was good. She's good looking, and she played the part well. And we get Maggie Gyllenhaal. They changed the character. Why did they change the actress? Why didn't they not bring Katie Holmes back? I would much prefer Katie Holmes over Maggie Gyllenhaal. Even though you could say Maggie Gyllenhaal is a better actress, sure, but I'm sorry, Katie Holmes is better looking than Maggie Gyllenhaal. So I'd rather have Katie Holmes in that role. Plus, I already was used to her being Rachel. And to totally change that character, I didn't like that. But I'm spoiling the movie. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil Dark Knight. But Rachel gets killed by the Joker. And also I didn't like that. I look at the end of Batman Begins that there's a relationship between Batman, Bruce Wayne, and Rachel. And then they begin this movie and she's with Harvey Dent. So it's like, what happened there? Why aren't they together? Batman and Rachel should be together. They kind of developed that already in the first movie. Now we got this love triangle. Like, I didn't get that at all. And then they kill her. I hated that. Absolutely hated that they killed Rachel. Like, that's Batman's girlfriend. That's the one. I want to see happy endings. I want to see Batman come away with the girl. So killing her, I hate that. I hate when anytime they do that in a movie, they kill one of the romantic interests. I hate it. it just almost kills the movie for me. So as a major, some people don't care, and people are like, okay, it makes makes for a good drama. It's a good twist or a good drama. I don't like it. I want the girlfriends to survive. I want the hero and the girlfriend to get together at the end. I don't know. That's what I feel like about that. There's a whole scene where they capture the Joker and they put him in a room with one guard. I mean, the Joker is the biggest terrorist like we've ever seen, most dangerous, scariest terrorist we've ever seen, and you're gonna put him in a room with one guard. I mean, he should be like in a straitjacket. He should be like Hannibal Lecter. He should be straitjacketed or something. He should be chained up. He should have multiple guards with guns. If you have one in the room, have some outside of the room, so he doesn't get away, because he gets away because he only has one guard to get past, and he gets away. And it's like, that is so stupid. And I don't know, the way he escapes the whole prison scene, I just thought was stupid. Anyways, it's just whatever, convenient that he gets away and all that. Anyway, so I don't know. People might like that. I didn't care for that scene. And then we talk about Harvey Dent, who's Two-Face. And we know he's going to be Two-Face, but I figured he was going to be Two-Face in the next movie, and we're going to develop him in that movie. But he becomes Two-Face in the third act of the movie. And it's like, why are you coming up with a villain in the third act? It makes no sense. I don't think it's a good idea anyways, because he's gone. He only survived. Two-Face is the major Batman villain. He should be the main villain for a whole movie. Yet he was like one of the main villains for just a third of the movie. I don't know. I didn't like that idea behind it. And the fact that he's helping the Joker, and it's like, the Joker killed his girlfriend. He should hate the Joker. He should kill the Joker, but yet he kind of sides with him. That didn't make any sense to me. And then I didn't even like the ending where it's like, Harvey Dent gets killed, the Two-Face character gets killed, but Batman's going to take the blame, and he's going to be the villain. It's like, no, Batman's a hero. He shouldn't be the villain. I didn't like that at all. To me, Batman Begins had a great ending, very satisfying, happy ending. Dark Knight did not have a happy ending. It was just a very muddled ending. Plus, the Joker character, also at the end, it's like Batman should be so powerful. I mean, Batman, for goodness sakes, in the comics and whatever, he fights like a human crocodile, for goodness sakes. And he gets into a fight with the Joker, and all the Joker has is a baseball bat and like 2 attack dogs. And yet Batman struggles against Joker who has a baseball bat and 2 dogs. And it's like, that should not stop Batman or be a problem for Batman. He should be able to take out Joker by himself, even if Joker has a weapon. That's how good Batman is. And 2 dogs like take him down. It's like, come on, dogs. Anyway, so that was stupid. Anyway, so sorry that I had to go a long time on that, because that's my purpose of why I like Batman Begins way better than Dark Knight. Though I know I'm never going to win that debate. As soon as we started that round 2, I was like, I'm losing this round. I didn't even hardly try it, because I was like, what's the use of even trying? I know I'm going to lose. But anyway, so I lost the second round on that one, I think 3-0 again. So I got shut out like first 2 categories got totally shut out. I'm down 2-0. I'm like, oh man, I'm losing this debate. Like, I want to quit so bad, but I'm like, I got to keep going, get through this thing. But it's like, I know I'm losing and all that. Anyways, I know, let's see. Mike said something. I know, Mike, you have to go to bed, so I don't know if you're here anymore, but he says, I think you did a good job, Jason, in convincing the panel. It's all in good fun. I know the feeling of being able to come up with a debate on the spot or counter what the other person debates against. Yeah, definitely. Much harder than it looks. I'll say that. Much more pressure than I was figuring it was going to be. I think with your anxiety, you showed determined to continue on. Yeah, beat the anxiety. That's so fantastic. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Mike. I said Mike, whatever. Yeah, I'm glad I kept going. I didn't want to quit and ruin everything for Anthony Perez. That wouldn't have been very nice. So I tried to do my best and continue on the debate, even though I was struggling. It was a struggle. Yeah, it was the first 2 categories. So I probably took a long time that second one, but I had a lot to say about that. Third category is, what is the best animated film of the 2000s? I went with Monsters Incorporated. It's one of my favorite. It's my second favorite, I think, Pixar movie of all time. It's definitely a top 10 like favorite animated movie. Sin picked Emperor's New Groove, which I thought was such an interesting pick. I feel like that was not one I was expecting for anybody to pick. I figured Sin would pick, like, he could pick Shrek 2. He could have picked Finding Nemo. Maybe Wall-E came out in that time period. The Incredibles, I think, came out. That's a really great movie. That would have been a great movie to you know, try to argue for. Up came out, I believe, that year. There's a lot of great, mostly Pixar movies I think about. Even Disney was not a great decade for Disney. Emperor's New Groove, I really like, though. I think that's actually a really good movie. Treasure Planet, I think, came out during that time period. I really love that movie. So there's a lot of good choices there. So I thought that was interesting that Sin picked Emperor's New Groove. I thought, wow, what an interesting movie to try to, defend on. One of the best anime of all the great anime movies. That's the one she wanted to defend, and I was like, again, I really like that movie, and so I was like really interested in what she's going to say. Um, I still think Monster Incorporated is a better movie, of course, but they're both good movies. So again, but that was one where I thought, I think I can win this again. I remember thinking, I think I can win this one. I feel like I have a good movie to argue that I hopefully I can win. But you never know, because the three judges, you don't know what they're going to say, and you don't know what they feel about these movies, and so it's all in the hands of these three judges. It's all subjective, opinions. So they might like the way you argue, they might not like the way you argue. You just never know. And anyways, but so I ended up winning the round, but I think that's mostly because this was definitely, I think, Sin's weakest category. She even kind of admitted that she's not that big on animation. I think she said, well, I'm really big on animation. I talk a lot about animated movies on my channel. I watch a lot of them. Watched them throughout since I was a kid, so I have a pretty good history of animated movies. So I think that was just an instance where I was just much stronger on the category than Sin was. Anyways, and just talking about Monsters Incorporated, like I said, I love this movie because I love the world building. I love this whole premise of, there's this whole thing about, oh, there's a monster in our bed, or there's a monster in my closet, and this idea of, like, what if there was a monster under your bed, or what if there was a monster in your closet, and then explaining, like, why would there be a monster in the closet, and to come up with this whole idea that there's this whole monster universe inside and they can travel through closet doors. They have this power or whatever, and that in this town, this city called Montropolis, whatever, they got scarers who come through these doors and they scare children. And the only reason why they scare children is because they found out screams can power their city. It's almost like electricity for them. So it's very vital to the economy, I guess you can say, very vital to their well-being, is they got to get screams out of these little kids so they can, use it for their city. And that's the whole reason. It's a practical reason. They aren't mean. They're not doing for mean reasons. They're not doing for horrible reasons. They don't want to hurt anybody. They just want to get screams for. Anyways, I thought that was all a really cool premise and intro into this world. And that's a big part of my argument I made. I know, it's like, I just love that. I love when movies do that. Anime movies like Toy Story, you can say Finding Nemo, whatever. There's a lot of movies like that where they just build this really cool idea of a premise and a world, and these are the rules of the world. And when you do that, I love those kind of movies, and this is definitely one of them. And then I talk about, like, how I just love the story between this kid comes through the monster world, and they're all scared of human beings. They're little kids. It's like one of those things where they're more scared of you than you are of them, even though the monsters are definitely more scarier than a little child. But all these scary monsters are scared of the little child because they were told this lie by the government of the monster world that they're dangerous and they'll kill you or something like that. So they're all scared of this little girl. I think that's a funny premise as well. And I love the whole relationship that Sully, the main, and here's the funny thing is, me and Sin both picked movies where John Goodman is the voice of one of the main characters. I had Monsters Incorporated, John Goodman, Sully. Sin picked Emperor's New Groove, where John Goodman is the chief villager or whatever. I forget his name in that movie. Anyway, so it's funny. We both picked John Goodman movies. He has a really good voice for animation, I think. So anyways, but yeah, Sully, I love the whole relationship that Sully has with Boo. They call her Boo because they don't know what her name is, and she can't really talk. She's so little. And I love that at first they're really scared of her, but then he kind of develops this kind of fatherly relationship with her where he really cares about her well-being and wants to protect her, and he wants to see her safely get back to her world while the bad guys are trying to get her and all this. He's very, yeah, the whole protective thing about her, and I love that. I love that relationship so much and how they really developed it through, even though she can't talk or anything. And I didn't talk about my arguments. I didn't have time, but man, one of my favorite scenes is when he's got her and he's got her dressed like a monster, so no one knows it's a little girl. And he the CEO whatever of this company um, sees him, and they're training new scarers, and he sees him and says, "Hey, I want you to show them how to scare a kid or whatever." And he's like, "Oh, I don't have time." It's like, "No, whatever." And so then he does his war and he scares like this dummy kid. But at the same time, Boo sees it and scares Boo, and he sees the what his scaring does to these kids, and he realizes, "Oh my gosh, I'm hurting these kids by scaring them. Like I'm, traumatizing them." And that realization is such a great moment. Probably my favorite moment of the movie is like when he realizes what he's doing and like kind of maybe ethically wrong, like that he's scaring kids for a living, and now he has this, he didn't care about it until he had this relationship with an actual, human kid. And then all of a sudden that all changes for him. I think that's such a great moment, emotionally, dramatically, and all that. Love that realization of what he's doing and what it's doing to kids. Anyways, that's great. Also, the relationship between him and Mike Wachowski is so amazing as well. Um, Billy Crystal gives one of the greatest, I think, animation performances. He's absolutely hilarious as Mike Wachowski. He reminds me of Billy Crystal because he busts out in song out of nowhere randomly, which Billy Crystal is known to do, like in a lot of his movies and stuff. And when he hosted the Oscars, he likes to break out in song. So I love how Billy Crystal did that character. It's such a funny character, and them together are so good. Sully and Mike Wachowski, whatever the name is, and it's very funny. There's so many funny scenes, like where put that kid right where where it came from, and they're like, "What are you doing? It's a new musical. Put that kid right where they came from. Put that kid right." And he starts singing a musical, and at the very end, they do an actual musical that they. That's such a funny callback overall, but. And I love they make a lot of inference references to that Mike only has one eye, and there's a lot of funny stuff there. And the fact that he's still kind of scared of the kid until the very end. I also mentioned the animation is so good in that movie. Like the scene where they have all these doors, where they use all these doors to get into other kids, closets, and there's just rows of doors. That animation is so amazing. I still am marveled, like how did they make all these different doors with different door designs, and they're moving in the scene, like it's just next level like animation at that moment. Like this is really incredible animation. And then my last argument is just the ending is so good. When I don't know, I just love the idea. Of course, there's a good twist with who the villain is. When you find out, it's like, oh man, that's a good twist. And the reason behind why the villain did what he did was great. And then you get this, at the end, he finds out that you can actually get more out of kids laughing than screaming. I thought that was such a cool idea. Like, hey, let's stop traumatizing kids and scaring them. Let's make them laugh. And actually has more power than scares. That was such a good kind of ending to it to really satisfy. Like, okay, they've all changed, and they're doing good instead of bad. And then the fact that Boo had to go back to the real world, and they had to destroy the door so she can never come back, and that Sully misses her. And then we get to the end, and they put the door back together, and he opens it, and we hear Boo say "Kitty," and Sully has this great smile on his face. Oh my gosh, it makes me cry every time. It's such a great, heartwarming moment. And that's why I have it probably this high. That's why it's my favorite animation of the 2000s, because that ending gets me every time. Anyways, so that's why I picked Monsters Incorporated for my favorite film 2000s. Emperor's New Groove, I think, is a good movie. It's very funny. It's one of the funniest Disney movies, I think. And it has a good, relationship between the two main characters and Gronk. I love Gronk. He's my favorite character in that movie. And there's some good character development. because the really selfish jerk prince, becomes, actually helping others and learns to not be so terrible, through that whole movie. A lot of good stuff there, but I still don't think it matches up to Monsters Incorporated uh, as far as how good storytelling is, and the ending is just so good, anyways, and all that. So that's my argument for Monsters Incorporated. Again, you could argue The Incredibles is so good, Up is so good, Shrek movies, Wally. Man, there's a lot of good movies that. So it's not. I can't say Monsters Incorporated. I think is, but you can beat me if you picked another good movie. I think you could beat me there. I think Emperor's New Groove, good movie, but wasn't one that's probably gonna win that round. So I was lucky enough to win one round there, and I was only down 2-1 at that point. So I'm like, all right, at least I'm not getting blown out here. Because I thought I was just gonna get blown out 5-0. I thought I'm gonna be the biggest loser ever. But I was like, I won one round, so okay, good. I won one round. Okay, and well, I don't know if I'll win anymore, but at least I won one. All right, so the fourth category, we had to change it because the original category was what is the worst sequel ever made? I said Joker 2, Sin said Joker 2, so we had to throw that one out because we both agreed that was the worst sequel. So it's kind of funny where that was one time me and Sin totally agreed on what was the worst sequel ever. So the replacement question was, what is the worst movie that came out this year so far? I picked Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, whatever, or I think it's called, the Disney live action remake with Rachel Zegler. Sin picked a movie I'd never heard of. I don't even remember what it's called, except there's a horse in the title. That's all I remember. She's something about a horse. And so that was an interesting one because, I'm like, and I thought, well, I'm going to win this one because, I'm picking a movie that people actually know and heard about. I think universally everybody hates Snow White. So I'm like, that's an easy, one of the worst movies. And so that was definitely a situation where I was definitely picking the obvious choice. Most of the time, I wasn't picking the obvious choice. But that was one of the few times where I was like, okay, I'm kind of going with the obvious choice here. And I really thought, okay, I'm probably going to win this round because, how can I lose against a movie no one's ever heard of? So Sin went into that movie, and it's probably a terrible movie. I just never heard of it, and I probably never see it. And most people have never heard or seen it. So it probably is a terrible movie. I just don't know the movie. And so, again, I thought I'd get pretty good arguments for this, and I did a whole video on how bad this movie is. So I don't have to go too much into it except say that my main argument was that Rachel Zegler was such a horrible cast. She did not personify Snow White. She's supposed to be this very pure, good character who's very nice, and everybody loves her because of that. Ziegler doesn't come off very likable, and a lot of that's probably because she's not likable in real life, and so it's hard for her to become likable in the movie as well. And I don't know, she just never felt like Snow White to me. I never once felt like, oh yeah, this is Snow White. I totally believe it. I don't know, it just wasn't believable. Again, I felt like she was very sarcastic at times, and I don't like sarcasm. It's not a good trait. And her whole banter with the guy who's not the prince in this movie, but he's like the leader of this group. I forget, the bandits or whatever they're called. And she had this, very banter between him where she was kind of, again, being sarcastic, tearing him down. And it felt like that's not Snow White. I don't know. Part of that's the writing. Part of that's just Rick Ziegler just can't be likable. That's just not a good role for her. That's all I can say. And I didn't say this in my argument, but those eyebrows are just so distracting. She has these thick eyebrows that it's just and not that she's bad looking, but she's not one of the better looking. And Snow White's supposed to be this great looking, I think, character that's supposed to be the fairest of all. That's supposed to make the main villain, the queen, jealous. And it's like, Rachel Zegler, should have got someone better looking. I'm sorry. That's my opinion. I didn't even make that argument. That's my opinion on that. I did argue about the dwarves, where I think it's so stupid that they're animated. They should have been little people. If you're making a live action movie, why put animation in there? You stick real people in there. That's the whole point of real live action. I thought they were a lot of them were designed pretty badly, and the worst one was Dopey. Dopey was such a terrible design of a character. Didn't look anything like the original character, and then he has this whole weird thing where he talks at the end, and it doesn't really fit the character. Or the original story. I guess I don't know. I just thought that was so terrible the way they did that, and I didn't have enough time to even go into the bandits. The fact that they have the seven dwarves and then they have these seven bandits, and so they take time out of the dwarves. The dwarves should be the star of the movie, but they take out time they could have done with the dwarves, and they take the time to talk about these bandits because there's no prince in the movie, which is stupid. They have this guy who's kind of taking that role, who's the love interest of Snow White. They kind of have a romantic thing all of a sudden, but it wasn't a good storytelling of how they're falling in love. It's just hey, you're good looking, I'm good looking, that kind of thing that happens in some movies. But in the bandits itself, they don't really develop the characters all that much. It's just they throw them in there just because they didn't want to do a Prince story, I guess, and they wanted this bandit guy, and they wanted to make this whole political thing, I think. So it was stupid. Like, to me, take away the seven bandits and let's take more time on the seven dwarfs. That should be the selling point of the movie. So, anyways, and I didn't get into the argument. I didn't have time, but that's other things that are bad. I think Gal Gadot was terrible as the queen as well. She's too good looking for the part. That's my main thing. It's like, it's so stupid to go, who's the fairest of them all? Well, Gal Gadot is, for goodness sake. She's so good looking. She's a supermodel. So that's stupid. And she's definitely not worse looking than Rachel Zegler. I think everybody believes that she's way better looking than her. So that's stupid. Yeah, so that's mostly my argument for that. I don't think anybody could disagree too much with me. I think most people would agree. That movie is one of the biggest bombs I've ever seen. Such a train wreck of a movie. Anyways, and so I don't remember what Sin said about her movie, except that there's a movie about a horse, but the horse is barely in the movie, only in it for 5 minutes, and whatever. And so I thought, oh, I'm winning this round, like, because I feel like I did a better job with a movie that people know about. Somehow I lost that round. I'm still baffled that I lost that. I'm like, surely people agree with me. Snow White's the worst movie, but no, I lost that round. So I'm like, geez, I can't even win on Snow White. Are you kidding me? As being a worst movie, I thought that was one of my strongest categories, and I lost that. So I was down 3-1. I mean, I'm down 3-1. Sin needs to win 2 more to beat me, and I only got 1 win. And I'm just not. And even the categories I thought I did good in, I'm losing. So I'm like, geez Louise, like, I am doing terrible in this debate. It's not going well for me at all. Now my anxiety went down after, actually, I would say after we did the 3rd round where I won that round with the Monsters Incorporated, I felt a lot better after that point, and I felt good enough I could continue on, luckily. And so luckily my anxiety didn't kill me that time, or didn't continue. It kind of went down, and so I was able to finish somewhat better anyways. But yeah, so that was the 4th category. 5th category is, what is the most overrated film franchise? Now, I'll be completely honest, I thought this was my weakest category. I thought this was my worst overall. I didn't feel like I had really good arguments for my choice. My choice was the Transformers franchise. And Sin's choice was Avatar franchise, I guess it was, as being overrated, whatever. And to be honest, I don't feel that strongly about my choice, because I had a hard time picking what franchise is overrated. I had a really hard time with it, because I thought the franchises I really like Star Wars, I really like that. I don't think that's overrated. Lord of the Rings, I don't think it's overrated. Harry Potter, I really love that franchise. That's not overrated. It's like the really popular franchises I actually really like. And then the franchises that are bad, like most everybody thinks they're bad. So it's like, how do I argue about that? I could have argued like Fast and Furious was another choice I thought about making. You can argue that those movies make a lot of money, but the only problem is I think there's actually some really good films in that. That's why I didn't pick that, I guess, because I think there's actually like 3 or 4 really good films in that franchise. Last couple have been terrible, but so it's a hit or miss franchise, I guess. And you can go with like Twilight. It's just a terrible franchise, maybe. But I think most people feel like it's a terrible franchise, so I can't really talk. And I haven't seen all the movies. So anyway, so I kind of went Transformers. And my only argument really is just that Transformers is really bad. The movies are really bad, and they get worse. Every movie gets worse and worse. But the movies make money, so they keep making them. And that's why I think it's overrated, is that I don't understand why people keep seeing these movies and why they keep making money. As long as people are watching them, they're making money, they're going to keep making these terrible movies. Even though, like, critically, people really don't like these movies, audience-wise, they're doing well enough that they keep making them. It's a profitable franchise, I guess. but I think most of us say, yeah, it's a terrible franchise. I think the first movie, and in my arguments, I said, I think the first movie is actually pretty good. I think there's the special effects are amazing. I thought it was really cool how they brought all that to life, the Autobots and Decepticons, whatever. I thought that was really cool how they did it. It looked really good. The story wasn't really that great, but I also thought it was really funny. I really liked the comedy in it. Shia LaBeouf, I thought that was actually a really kind of star-making performance for him. So there's a lot of good there, but that's about it. After that, the sequels and everything, the story gets worse. It just becomes more just this, more special effects heavy and just not as interesting. And as I said, the performances got worse and worse. I think throughout there's some pretty bad performances throughout the movie series. I mentioned like Mark Wahlberg, casting him as this genius mechanic person that puts a transformer together. That was never believable. And luckily, Anthony Perez actually agreed with me on that, so that was funny. I was like, okay, I'm not the only one who thought that. I thought I was making really bad debate points. I thought, man, I'm not going to win this round because I don't think I'm making very good arguments for mine, and I don't really believe that strongly in my choice either. But yeah, Mark Wahlberg, we got a transformer. He's got that Boston accent. It's like he's not. I don't think his character's from Boston, but he's Mark Wahlberg, so he has a Boston accent. But anyways, yeah. So anyways. It's funny when Sin picked Avatar. My first thought was, "Oh man, Avatar is a much better choice than Transformers," and I thought Sin's going to win this easy because she picked a much better. Though, the more I think about it, and I should have pointed this out, and if I thought of it better, I would have pointed out that I don't think Avatar is really a franchise. There's only 2 movies. 2 movies isn't really a franchise. I think you need at least 4 movies to be a franchise because the 3 movies is a trilogy. 2 movies is just a sequel. So right now, Avatar technically really I don't think is a franchise. So it's like I should have won that round just by the fact that Avatar is not a franchise and Transformers is. So on technical level, I probably should have won just on that. But if we throw that out the window, I think Sin actually picked a better because I think Avatar is really overrated. I can't believe that movie made so much money. That did not deserve how much money it made at the box office. It's just a boring movie and no originality really at it at all. And yeah, I never cared for the Avatar movies. And the fact that they're always the biggest box office movie every year and they get nominated for Best Picture and all that, yeah, it definitely doesn't deserve that. So on that level, I think Sin should have won that round because I think she picked a better movie. But I actually ended up winning that round, which is total shock to me because like I said, it's like other rounds I was like, man, I'm doing really good. I'm making some really good points. I really like what I said. And I lose the round. And then I get a round like this where I'm like, this is not a good round for me. And I won the round. So I'm like, I don't get this at all. How do I don't know how I win rounds or lose rounds. All I do is try to give my best opinion, my best arguments, and that's all I can do. But so I ended up winning that round. So I was down 3-2 at that point, which was like, okay. It's a little more. I feel like I was kind of getting blown out, and then when I got to 3-2, I was like, okay, at least I'm keeping it semi-close. I'm not getting blown out in this whole thing. So that was good. That helped my ego a little bit more. So that's the 5th question. 6th question, very interesting one, is who is the greatest movie villain of all time? What a good question. There's so many different answers you can choose here. And I really had to think about it to really come up with, I thought, the best answer. But I went with the Joker. Again, I'm going back to Batman here. I already talked about kind of Joker already. But I went with the Joker. Sin went with the Terminator. No surprise. Sin loves the Terminator. That's like her favorite movie of all time. So, of course, she's picking the Terminator as her favorite villain or whatever. Totally makes sense. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's a famous villain, I guess you can say. I really thought probably would pick like Darth Vader. I think most people would probably say Darth Vader is the greatest villain, and I consider saying Darth Vader because he's definitely, one of the most iconic villains, I guess you can say, in movie history. The only reason why I didn't go with Darth Vader is because I don't feel like he's really a villain. Because Anakin Skywalker is really a redemption story because he becomes good at the end. So I was like, I don't want to go with a character that has a redemption story like Darth Vader. who's not all bad at the end. He actually does some good things, you know, all that. I want to go with a villain that never has redemption. That's always bad, you know. I think that makes for a better villain. So I was like, I thought about Darth Vader, but I was like, nah. And looking back, if I went with Darth Vader, I probably could have won the round because most people would probably agree Darth Vader is one of the greatest villains. So that was the point where it's like I went with my heart and didn't go with my head. Like if I was really trying to win this debate, I suppose I should have gone with movies that could have won, but I didn't want to go with movies just to win. I wanted to go with movies I actually felt passionate about, or answers that I felt passionate about that I really felt like I can give good arguments on. So of why I think that. Anyway, so so many different. There's so many villains you could have gone with. But I really liked the Joker. I thought the Joker was a good answer for that. And I thought I had a good shot at winning this round because I think the Joker is such an interesting character. And I think definitely the best villain in any superhero comic book, you know, movie. And again, Batman's my favorite superhero. So it makes sense that Joker is my favorite villain. And again, just very iconic. He's been the big villain for a long time. He's been the kind of iconic villain in that series, and so many iterations of that. Anyways, that character. To get into Joker, I love the Joker because he's such an interesting character in total. Because, like I said, you know, he's a clown who's a psychotic killer, kind of crazy person. I love the whole look of the Joker with the white face paint and the different, you know, clown makeup and you know, and the hair. I think is usually colored. You know, it's such a great look overall, and I just love that he's got like an interesting personality. You just don't understand why does he do the things he does. You don't quite understand. It's a very mysterious kind of character. He can be kind of jokey at times or whatever. He can be kind of there's a humor side to him that makes him kind of interesting. But the humor is very, you know, sadistic in ways, and he has very scary moments in some movies like that where he's just a heartless killer as well, and will do anything to get what he wants. You know, as far as like we've seen in both, you know, movies and comics or whatever, him taking people hostage and threatening to kill loved ones to get to the heroes or get what he wants. He's willing to kill people and, you know, do terrible things to people. And yeah, such an interesting character there because he's got such an interesting personality that is always fun on screen or anything. Like as a kid, man, I loved watching the Batman animated series. Anytime the Joker showed up, Mark Hamill did such a great job as the Joker. Anytime the Joker showed up, that was like one of the best episodes. I was like, oh, it was exciting when Joker showed up in a Batman episode. So like, oh, this is gonna be a good episode. Joker's the bad guy. And I used to read Batman comics, and I always loved the ones with Joker. It was always very interesting. And then you go back even to the Adam West Batman. I'm forgetting whoever played Joker did a really good job there. And then of course we got it really big with Jack Nicholson. What a great actor playing Joker. Gave a really great performance in the Batman movie. You know, that's where we got the really good live action Joker. And then we got him again with Heath Ledger, like I said, who won an Oscar for his performance. Jared Leto was not very good as a Joker. They had a different take at it that didn't work. But then we got the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, who won another Oscar for Best Actor. You know, so we've gotten a lot of different interpretations of the Joker, and they've done Joker maybe slightly different without still being an interesting character. All these different actors that have taken the role. And yeah, so I just think he's such an interesting villain overall. And always been since I was a kid, always been like the big villain. And one of the big points I made, which I thought should have won me the round, because I think it's a really good point, is that it's the only villainous character I've ever seen win the Oscar twice. One for Best Supporting Actor for Heath Ledger and one for Best Actor for Joaquin Phoenix. That never happens. You never get a villain that wins 2 Oscars for 2 different actors playing that character. That is crazy that worked out. Like when Heath Ledger got nominated, I thought, well, they're not going to nominate the Joker. It's a comic book villain. They don't give Oscars to comic book villains. But like I said, I was so happy when Heath Ledger won it. I thought, man, that was so deserving. And it was like, wow, they gave the Oscar to a comic book villain. That was such a unique thing. And then when Joaquin Phoenix was doing the Joker, and they're talking about Best Actor, I was like, there's no way they're giving another Oscar to somebody playing the same character, Joker, that already won an Oscar. That's crazy. But he won the Oscar for Best Actor. The only time Joaquin Phoenix, one of the greatest actors working today, finally won his Oscar playing the Joker, in a different interpretation or whatever. So to me, that alone should, I don't know, make Joker the greatest villain of all time. Like I said, nobody has won 2 Oscars for that character by 2 different actors. And there's a reason why all the great actors want to play the Joker. I mean, Jack Nicholson, like I said, Joaquin Phoenix, Heath Ledger, these are amazing actors, and they will take the Joker role because it's such a great character. And that's why it's one of the best villains. That alone, to me, should have won the round, because I thought that was such a good argument, I thought, on my part. And so it's interesting, talking about, okay, the Terminator. And Sin, again, loves the Terminator. And the big argument Sin made, I think, was that the Terminator is really hard to kill because it's a robot. It's this, what do you call it? I guess, yeah, it's a robot, a killer robot that's programmed to kill and has no remorse, has, can't reason with it, can't bargain with it, whatever, and I get that. Yeah, it's definitely hard to kill, while the Joker is a human being. Joker is more easier to kill because, you just have to shoot him or something, while the Terminator, you can't just shoot it. You have to do a lot more to finally kill it, and that's the best argument I think Sin had for the character. Like, to me, it's like, whatever. Like, yeah, the Terminator's harder to kill, but I don't think that makes a better villain, in my opinion. But that was a good argument to make, though, I think, on Sin's choice, that I can see could sway the votes to her on that alone. But and she said, like, and I said, like, Joker's so interesting. He's got this great personality. He's got different actors want to be the Joker, and he's won all these Oscars. And Sin said, well, only one actor can play the Terminator, and that's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He is the Terminator. I guess is, I don't know, an argument for her case. That, I don't know why that's an argument, but that was her argument there. And to me, I was thinking, like, the Terminator is such a boring character. He's just a one-note, stoic, I'll be back, character. He doesn't have personality like the Joker does. So that's why I would pick the Joker over the Terminator. The one thing you give the Terminator, yeah, he's very hard to defeat and hard to kill and all that. And the other argument I would have is that Terminator is only the villain in one movie, the Terminator, because in T2 he's the good guy. So it's like, how good of a villain is he if he's the villain for like one movie? Well, Joker's the villain every movie he's in, every animated series, every comic book, he's the main villain. So I don't know. And I say all that to say I lost the round, and I was like, how did I lose when I picked the Joker? I thought I gave really good argument for that, but for whatever reason, I just couldn't win. It was like, whatever I did, no matter how good my arguments were, I just impossible for me to win some of these rounds. So yeah, I lost that round. So now I'm down 4-2 at this point. Again, it's like, all right, I'm in Game 7, the playoffs. Sin has to win one more round, and this whole thing's over. And so, whatever. So now we get to the 7th question. And 7th question is, what is the best 2D animated Disney film? I went with The Lion King. Again, that's definitely one of the most obvious choices I could have made. I wish I could have made a more interesting choice, but I just can't get past. The Lion King is my favorite anime movie of all time, Disney or not. So it's like, yeah, The Lion King. And I think someone's argued for The Lion King on another show, so I kind of feel bad that I'm talking about The Lion King again when I think it was already debated on the show. But I had to go with The Lion King. Sin went. What'd she go for? Beauty and the Beast, which Beauty and the Beast is a good choice because that is another beloved Disney movie that has a lot of big fans, and Sin made the best argument for it, and that is it's the first anime movie to be nominated for Best Picture. So I have to give it to her. That's a good argument because Lion King didn't get nominated for Best Picture, so that definitely helps the case for Beauty and the Beast. And so that was definitely a thing where it's like, of course, you could have picked all kinds of movies, Little Mermaid, Aladdin. You can go back to Snow White, the original Snow White, whatever. A lot of choices there. Beauty and the Beast was a good choice, though, I think, overall. So definitely, I thought I could win the round. I could lose a round. Who knows? The way the debate's been going, I just have no idea how to win these rounds. If I do win, it seems by accident, and even if I do a good job, I can't win. So who knows? But and I don't know if I did that good job. It's hard because there's so many things to talk about. The Lion King, um, and I saw it when I was 10 years old, and I was blown away by how good it was. I absolutely loved it as a kid, and even now at 42, I absolutely love this movie. Um, Overall story is just so good with uh, Simba and Mufasa. That whole relationship, it's one of the best father-son relationships we've seen in movies. And Scar is such a great villainous character, the uncle that you knew was evil, and of course, like I talked about, spoiling the movie, like that scene where Scar kills Mufasa, and but he puts the blame on his nephew Simba, makes Simba feel guilty about it. Man, that is evil. That is such an evil thing that Scar does there. It makes you hate Scar so much. But that whole scene, man, that makes me cry every time I see it. When he goes and he sees his dad, Mufasa's on the ground, and he goes to see him, and he puts his paw on his head. Oh my gosh, it's such a sad scene, and it's crazy because it's just two animated lions. Yet it just makes me so emotional when I see that scene. And I've heard a lot of people say the same. But yeah, so it's like, man, dramatic storytelling is so good in that movie, like that moment. And then he runs off, and then we meet Timon and Pumbaa. And I said, the movie's really funny. Timon and Pumbaa is some of the greatest side characters we ever had. Love Timon and Pumbaa. And their moments are very funny, and their chemistry is so good. And we get to that, and then we get to the whole where, he has to come to terms with, his past, and he talks to Mufasa as Cloud, and he has to go back to the Pride Land. I didn't have enough time to make this. My time ran out, so I didn't have time to argue this. But just that whole part where he has to go back to the Pride Land and take it back over from Scar, who's ruined everything, and the whole climatic finish is so good. And he has to defeat his uncle who killed his dad. I mean, I know it's basically Hamlet, but still, it's great storytelling, and the way he wins at the end is so good. But and overall, just great characters, of course. Like I said, the music is so great. I think maybe my best argument for the movie is just that Elton John, the songs that he wrote are some of the best I think ever. And again, Beauty and the Beast has some Oscar-winning songs as well, so it's hard to argue. And Alan Menken did a great job with Beauty and the Beast. But it's one of those things. What do you prefer more? I don't know. It's hard to argue, but personally, I prefer the Lion King songs. I mean, Circle of Life, and I said in my argument, Circle of Life, that beginning song, even with the sun coming up, what a great intro. One of the best intros to any movie. And them singing that song with and seeing like the birds flying, and we come to Pride Rock, and they go to that Circle of Life, and we have that moment where Rafiki raises up Simba. That's such an iconic moment, and that's just the whole beginning part of the movie, and that's so great. Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Great love song, won the Oscar, of course. That's a great song, but I mean, Be Prepared is great. I Can't Wait to Be King. Hakuna Matata, that's iconic. The Hakuna Matata. What a wonderful phrase. Yeah, that became such a catchphrase after that came out. And we're all saying Hakuna Matata after that movie. So yeah, just some of the best songs. Also, Hans Zimmer, one of his best scores in my opinion. I thought the score was so good in this movie. And I didn't have time to really argue this, but that scene where they defeat Scar and he has to walk up that Pride Rock, whatever, and they're playing that Hans Zimmer score. Oh my gosh, what a great emotional moment of victory, It was one of the best moments in the movie. Anyway, so it's just like, to me, one of the best stories. It's funny, it's dramatic, it's got a good romance storyline, in fact, and just the music is so good. So that's my argument for Ace. Lion King is my favorite 2D animated Disney film. Now, Sin picked Beauty and the Beast. And it's funny, I'm not a big fan of Beauty and the Beast. I think it's an okay movie. The music is really good. I love Gaston. He's one of my favorite villains. my main thing is I don't like the Beast, and I said a little bit of this in my rebuttal. Is that it's like I just don't like the Beast character. I don't like the love story. I don't think it makes sense or works at all. Why would this beautiful girl be in love with a Beast character? It makes no sense. Now you say, oh, the Beast, has a heart of gold, maybe, but it's like, okay, but he's still a Beast. Like no matter how nice I am, Sydney Sweeney's never going to go out with me. Sydney Sweeney is going to go out with some guy that's really good looking and younger than me. So it's not all about heart of gold. That's great, but looks do play a big part in a relationship. And so, yeah, a good looking girl like Belle is not going to go out with the Beast, no matter how nice he is. It makes absolute no sense. I liked it as a kid, but as an adult, I'm like, this makes no sense. And I hate that he's so mean to her and her father. To me, that's unforgivable. What he does at the beginning of that movie puts both of them in a prison, basically, prisons them in his castle. I don't know, and people would argue against that, but I still stand firm. That's an unforgivable thing. I would never fall in love with somebody who put my dad in prison. Like, I would never fall in love with them, or put me in prison. I would never fall in love with them. I would hate them for the rest of my life. It makes no sense. So I think that the whole love story really does not work for me. The Beast character doesn't work. So that's my big takes on why I don't like Beauty and the Beast and why I prefer The Lion King. That's my choice for that. Well, I actually won that round somehow. I wasn't sure if I was going to win, but somehow I eked the victory there. So now I was down, 4-3. So it's like, oh, at least I'm making it somewhat close. I'm not getting totally blown out. I know I'm going to lose, but at least I got 3 wins. And 2 of the wins were in animated categories. So evidently animation was my strongest suit, because the 2 animated questions, I won those 2 rounds. So like, at least I'm good at that. I'm good with animation anyways. Looks like my sister's here. As a person with anxiety, I definitely get it. I missed her debate. Yeah, I was on Anthony Perez's channel. I had terrible anxiety. All right, so we're actually getting to the 8th question. So we actually got to the last question, basically, except that if I would have won this last round, the 8th round, we would have tied 4-4, and then we would have had a tiebreaker question. So there was a tiebreaker question that we could have gone to determine who the winner was, but we didn't get there. So the 8th question, then this is the most interesting category, I think, of all the questions. This is one I was kind of most excited about in some senses. But anyways, the question is, who is the best action star of the 80s? As a question. I went kind of left field with this, but I picked Jackie Chan. Sin picked Arnold Schwarzenegger. Everybody and their dog knows that Sin's going to pick Arnold Schwarzenegger. She's a big Arnold Schwarzenegger fan. That's her favorite actor or whatever. So no surprise there. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to be your obvious choice in this category. 9 out of 10 people are going to pick Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's definitely, in America, he's the most well-known action star of the 80s. And if you think of the 80s, Arnold Schwarzenegger is the first person you're going to think of. So Arnold Schwarzenegger is definitely the winnable choice in that category. Again, I didn't go with who's going to win. I went with my heart on this. And I really think Jackie Chan is the best action star of the 80s. I really believe that. I stand by that choice. And when we were doing this, and I was like, all right, we're in the 8th round already. I at least made 8th rounds. And I picked Jackie Chan, she picked Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was like, well, there's no way I'm winning this round. There's no way, no matter how good my arguments are, there's no way me picking Jackie Chan is ever going to beat Arnold Schwarzenegger. Because Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's just more well-known than Jackie Chan. He's a bigger star than Jackie Chan in some senses. So it's just not a winnable debate. But I'm going to say this. I'm most proud of my arguments for Jackie Chan, though. I will stand by my arguments on Jackie Chan, and I will die on that hill. I really think Jackie Chan is the best action star of the 80s. And again, you can say he's underrated, but he's much more. He's done so much more in the 80s than anybody probably realizes. If you're not a Jackie Chan fan, if you're a Jackie Chan fan, I think you'll agree with me and you know what I'm talking about. But if you're not a Jackie Chan fan, if you don't know much about Jackie Chan, then you're not going to go with me on it. And that's what happened in that round, I'm sure. I don't know how much the judges knew about Jackie Chan or how much they know about his filmography. They probably know more about Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, again, I knew I wasn't going to win that round. But I still really liked my arguments. I still feel very proud of my performance on the most proud. I feel the most proud. Even though I lost this round, I feel so proud of my performance and my arguments on Jackie Chan. And I think it was my best debate moment in the whole thing, even though I lost it. But again, no matter how good I was never going to beat Arnold Schwarzenegger, for goodness sakes. Everybody knows Arnold Schwarzenegger movies in America. That's where he became a big deal in the 80s, mostly because he did movies like The Conan the Barbarian, he did The Terminator, he did now I'm forgetting Running Man, and he did like Commando, The Predator, another big one. So I would say the biggest, if I was making an argument for Schwarzenegger, the biggest arguments are going to be Conan the Barbarian, Terminator, and The Predator. Probably are going to be the three big ones. But I go, yeah, these were big '80s action movies that are still talked about today, maybe, or that people still look at today and all that, and are still considered some of his best movies. I can see those arguments for Arnold Schwarzenegger of the '80s. But going with Jackie Chan, as I said in my arguments, personally, I think he made better movies than Arnold Schwarzenegger. So that's just a personal preference. But again, I'm a big Jackie Chan fan. I love martial arts movies, and I think he made some great ones in the '80s. He kind of got a start in the '70s, and he made some good ones in the '70s with Drunken Master, Snake and the Eagle's Shadow, The Fearless Hyena, or good movies. But '80s, he went to another level, I thought. And again, I said in my argument that I feel like Bruce Lee set the bar for martial arts action movies. Jackie Chan, he went up a level. I think he took that bar and raised it. And I don't think anybody's done as good of work as Jackie Chan has. He's done such good work. And I can list movies, but some people probably don't know these movies and how good they are. And that's why my argument will never win. The Young Master is great. Project A, Police Story 2, Wheels on Meals, Dragons Forever, Armor of God. I would say those 7 movies are kind of iconic Jackie Chan movies. And if you know anything about Jackie Chan, those were big movies in his filmography and some of the best action movies I think ever made. My biggest ones were Project A and Police Story. I absolutely love those 2 movies. Those are some of my favorite martial arts action movies ever made. Like I said, Jackie Chan's my favorite martial arts actor. I think he's amazing. The fight scenes are so good in those films. Some of the best fight scenes I've ever seen. Very fast paced, very interesting, locations for fight scenes. Police Story is my favorite Jackie Chan movie. The mall scene where he's fighting all these guys in the mall is one of the best action sequences, where he's putting people through glass after glass, and he's jumping down escalators and stuff. And I'll get to the stunts here in a little bit, but yeah, that's such a great action sequence. Project A, yeah, there's some great action there. And what I wanted to make an argument for is that most of the Chinese kung fu movies were taking place in ancient China, and that's mostly what Jackie Chan did until the '80s. And then he made it more modern, which I don't think, I may be wrong, but I don't remember anybody doing modern kung fu movies like he did. I think he really changed the game. And I think like I said, I think he's the most influential, besides Bruce Lee, he's like the most influential martial arts action star we've ever seen. When you look at, like I said, Police Story 2, he plays a Chinese cop. And so it's a modern, cop, crime movie where he knows kung fu. Now, The Young Master is taking place in ancient China, so that's one that's there. Armor of God, he's like he's like Indiana Jones, but he knows kung fu basically in that movie, so that's pretty cool. Project A, it's like early 1900s, I think, kind of Victorian England type style of clothing, but they're in China, like in Hong Kong. So it's I've never seen a kung fu movie take place in that time period, so that was really cool. And he plays kind of a police officer in that one as well. In Dragons Forever, he's a lawyer that knows kung fu, and he takes down like a drug lord in that one. So that's more modern as well. Anyways, I don't know how good of an argument that is, but I just think that's kind of cool that he made more modern kung fu movies, which I really like. I think are really great. Um, but I will, and this is my opinion, of course, but Police Story Project A, especially, are better movies than anything Arnold Schwarzenegger's made. And that's maybe a wild statement, but I stand by it. Those movies. I think are better than what Schwarzenegger's made. And again, Terminator, I'm not a big fan of. It's more of a horror movie than a action movie. Conan Barbarian, I'm not super crazy about either. The Predator, it's iconic, but it's almost horror movie-ish as well. And then like Running Man is just okay. And a lot of these movies are really bad, cheesy movies. He did a lot of really terrible, cheesy movies. I mean, Red Heat, uh, what's it called? Raw Deal. They're not good movies. They're very, like I said, very cheesy, pretty terribly acted. Commando is a terrible movie, I think. It's really bad acted and story. Anyways, bad one-liners. I think most of his movies have been pretty terrible, even the ones that are famous. And in my argument, even I said I think Arnold Schwarzenegger's best movies are in the '90s. Not even though we think of him as a great '80s action star, I think his best material was in the '90s with Terminator 2, Total Recall, and True Lies. I would argue those are his best action movies, and those were in the '90s. So that was my argument for why I would not pick Arnold Schwarzenegger, even though that's the obvious choice. Most people would pick Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't think he made that many good movies. I think his overall persona is bigger than his actual quality of movies that he made or how good of an actor he is, because he's not really that good of an actor either. Uh, the Terminator really made him a star because he didn't have to be a good actor to play that role. But he looked great in the role because he was this big muscle bound guy. And so it's just like he was at the right place at the right time. It was the right movie role for him. It made him a star. And after that movie did so well, he was able to make other movies based on how good that movie did. And that's why he has a career, because he got to play that role. And like I said, the only thing he has going for him is that he's this big muscle bound guy. And it worked for him. And that's why he was such a big star at the time. Like I said, most of the Jackie Chan movies you've probably never seen, so you have to just take my word for it. They're just better movies than what Schwarzenegger did, in my opinion. Um, just unfortunately, most people don't know Jackie Chan films, so it's hard to argue about it because it's like you gotta just be a Jackie Chan fan, I guess, to really appreciate what he did. I still think he did some incredible. I guess I'll get in the stunts. He did some of the most incredible stunts I've ever seen. I mean, like I said, Police Story. There's a scene in the mall where he jumps on this big pole. He slides down the pole, and there's like lights that are popping, like this electricity that he probably burned his hands. And he's sliding down this big pole, and then at the end he drops down a little bit further through some glass, I think, on top of something. It was a very dangerous stunt, and if you watch the movie, they replay the stunt 3 times in 3 different angles. That's how cool the stunt is. But he didn't have a stunt double. He did his own stunts. He put his life on the line to make a movie better. Project A, he's hanging from a big clock tower, and he falls and hits some canopies and like lands on his head. Like he should have died. He somehow did that and survived. It's just crazy. Like I said, Armor of God is it's not the biggest stunt, but he jumped to grab a tree and it broke or something like that, and he fell and hit his head on a rock, and they had an emergency room. He had to go right to the emergency room, and he almost died. Like he had a really bad head injury from hitting this rock on the back of his head. I mean, he almost died several times making his movies, and the stunt work is just absolutely amazing that he does. And like I said, Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't do his own stunts. Sylvester Stallone, Bruce Willis, Jean-Claude Van Damme, it's like they don't do their own stunts. The only people that do their own stunts is like Tom Cruise nowadays, maybe Keanu Reeves, but nobody does their own stunts. You always have stunt doubles. I mean, that's what made him such unique, I think, is that he was willing to put his life on the line, his body on the line to make the movie better. Anyways, and you see it in the product that that's really Jackie Chan doing those things. I think that makes the movies better, in my opinion, and why I think he's better than Schwarzenegger as far as an '80s action star. Um, Not to mention, I mean, Schwarzenegger was the biggest probably '80s action star in America. Jackie Chan's the best '80s action star in China, which has like 1 billion people. So, nothing to sneeze at. I think he was a huge star in China, not in America at this time, but in China he was, and all that. And then I made the argument. He also directed a lot of these movies. He directed, I believe, Police Story and Police Story 2, whatever. He might have done Project A. I can't remember. Dragons Forever. Some of those were Sammo Hung as well, but he has a number of movies that he's directed, that he starred in. So the guy is starring in, doing his own stunts, and he's directing them, and they're doing amazing. And they all did great numbers in China. They all were big, blockbuster movies in China. And it's like, who else does that? I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't direct his own movies and do the stunts. Stallone does direct his own movies. I will say that he has that going for him, but doesn't do his own stunts. Bruce Willis doesn't direct and do his own stunts. Jean-Claude Van Damme doesn't direct. That's just how incredible Jackie Chan was, I think. And again, I use that to say how influential he is. He's more influential in action movies than he gets credit for. He should get more credit for it. As I said, because some of the shots in like Police Story are so good. The action scenes the way they're shot, it's some great directing. In fact, there's one scene with a bus that you almost get this. He's tracking down this bus, whatever, that has this bad guy in it, this drug guy, and it ends with the bus. He has to hang off the bus and he's really doing it with an umbrella. And then it comes to the end where this bus has to stop before it hits him, and he has a gun, and so the bus stops. And the same scene was basically used in Tango and Cash, which was a Sylvester Stallone movie. And Sylvester Stallone was so influenced by Jackie Chan, and they're really good friends in real life, that he basically stole that. And I think he got Jackie Chan's permission, but he basically stole that scene from Police Story to use in his own movie. That's just how good Jackie Chan was, that other people like Sylvester Stallone were stealing from him because of how good he was. Anyways, yeah. So I mean, it was just, again, should get more recognition for how great Jackie Chan was and how much he put into his movies that other actors can never do, in my opinion. Also, Jackie Chan has an Oscar. He won an Oscar for an honorary Oscar for his film achievement. Like, nobody in martial arts cinema gets Oscars just for being great at martial arts. That's how good Jackie Chan is that he won an Oscar, or he was given an Oscar for his basically lifetime achievement in movie cinema. Schwarzenegger doesn't have an Oscar. Stallone is the best actor out of, like, if I was making an argument who was the best actor, you would go with Stallone. He's a great actor, and he never won an Oscar, but he was nominated for Oscars for acting. And I think he maybe won an Oscar, maybe for screenplay, or maybe for producing, maybe a production thing for Rocky or something. But again, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bruce Willis, like, they don't have an Oscar. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Chuck Norris doesn't have an Oscar. You can go down the line of other martial arts, or other action stars in the 80s don't have Oscars, but Jackie Chan has an Oscar. That's how influential, how good he is, and why I think he's the best action star of the 80s, in my opinion. Yeah, so anyways, I'm very proud of my arguments. I think I made a winnable argument there. But again, I was never going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger because everybody knows Arnold. They don't know Jackie Chan. So, I can't win that. The only way I maybe could have won that is if I picked like Sylvester Stallone. I could maybe make an argument because I think everybody thinks of Schwarzenegger and Stallone are like the two best action stars of the 80s. That would be the argument I think you could make and maybe win. And the only reason why I couldn't go with Stallone is I think the only action movie I can really go with is like Rambo and Rambo 2, or like the big action movies that he made in the 80s. And they're both really good. And even Rambo doesn't have that much action in it. Rambo 2 is definitely the big action movie, and I like that movie because it's a little campy, a little cheesy, but it's really enjoyable. You can go with Rocky 3, but Rocky 3 is more of a boxing sports movie. I don't really look at it as an action movie, or Rocky 4. So it's like, do I even count those as action movies? There's boxing, so you can maybe say, but I don't know. I didn't want to go with Stallone because I thought was he's just known for Rocky and Rambo, and those are really good franchises that he did. Outside of that, he didn't really do a lot else. So I couldn't pick Stallone. Again, Schwarzenegger would be the obvious choice, and you can make an argument for him, which Sin did, and she won because she knows a lot about Schwarzenegger, and she's real passionate about him being the best, and most people would agree with her. So I lost because, yeah, it was easier to go with Schwarzenegger, I think. Jackie Chan was definitely a long shot. It's a harder argument to make, but I feel like I did a good job making the argument on a losing case, but still, I still stand by Jackie Chan on that. Anyways, I don't know if I can say more about that. I think it's enough about why. Let's see, I got Ryan here. I can totally relate with anxiety. I think you've done amazing. Oh, thank you. It's really difficult to come up with things on spot. Yeah, it was difficult. It was not easy. It's a crime Jackie Chan wasn't Expendables, perhaps for the best. Yeah, it's funny when the Expendables came out and it was like all these 80s action stars, or so forth. And you got Stallone, of course, directing those movies and he was starring it. And I think the first one wasn't that good. Second one I think is actually pretty good. And third one I didn't think was very good. And the fourth one's horrible. But the second Expendables is actually a pretty good action movie. But I love that you have, well, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger comes into the second movie. He's not in the first one, or he has a cameo in the first one, but he comes in the second one. I think Bruce Willis might be in it. And then you got Dolph Lundgren, Jet Li, though I don't know if Jet Li's in the 80s, actually. He might be. And then you got Jason Statham. I don't think he's an 80s, more like 2000 action star. So it was cool that he picked kind of some of the old action stars to come in. Chuck Norris, it was great to see Chuck Norris in that movie. I believe he's the lone wolf guy, whatever. It was cool to see him in there as well. I think Jean-Claude Van Damme was the villain. So again, cool to see him, another 80s action star in there. Yeah, Jackie Chan wasn't in it, but I remember Jackie Chan was interviewed one time during that period, and they asked, "Are you going to be in the Expendables movie?" Or why weren't you in the Expendables, whatever? And Jackie Chan said, "Oh, I think he was doing another movie. He was doing actually like an an Armor of God, like another Armor of God movie, the third one actually at the time, which wasn't that great, but I think he was maybe directing and starring his own movie. So it was one of those things where I think he was asked to be Expendables, but he couldn't do it because he had something else going on. And he said maybe in the future he'll be in there, but he hasn't been because there's a third and fourth Expendables, and he wasn't either one of those. So yeah, Jackie Chan should have been in the Expendables. That would have been a great see Jackie Chan there. But they did have Jet Li anyway, so they already had a martial artist anyways. But yeah, good point, Ryan. Jennifer, hi. I don't know you, but thanks for being in the comment section. Anyway, so that was the eighth question. I lost that question, obviously, as I mentioned. Lost the eighth round. Sin won 5-3 against me. So she got to that fifth one, whatever. I like Sin. She's great. She had a lot of good choices there. And like I said, I wasn't going to beat Dark Knight, and I wasn't going to beat Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think definitely she had those two in the bag. There's some where I think I could have won, but for a reason I didn't win. And what can you do? It's your hands are in the hands of you're in the hands of judges and their opinions. So whatever. But I'm still proud of my performance. I still think I did a good job. I'm still 100% behind my arguments, except for Transformers. That was the only one I don't think I did a very good job on. But everything else I feel really good about anyways. And so those were my answers to. There's a tiebreaker question we didn't get to, but I don't really want to get into that because we spent enough time on the video and have to go to church later. But anyways, thanks for anybody watching this. And this is just me I wanted to get this video out to kind of answer these 8 questions that I didn't have enough time to really get into them in the debate. But on my channel, I can flesh out my answers a little bit better. So that's why I took all this time. And I want to do this just to feel a little bit better about myself because I didn't do a very good job in the debate. And I had that panic attack, which I hated having. So it's nice to just do this without having any pressure, any panic, any anxiety attacks. And I can kind of really go through these questions and really give my defense on why I gave my answers the way I did. So hopefully all that made good sense to anybody watching. And again, I'll post these 8 questions maybe in the chats, and anybody can answer these 8 questions, what you think are the best choices for them. So let's see, who do I have here? This is Ryan. Did you catch AEW All In? I've watched the main event 3 times. No, I haven't. I know there's a big. I knew there was a big like pay-per-view thing, but I haven't watched anything on it yet. Though I have some videos that kind of react to what happened, so I'll figure out what happened anyways. But thank you, Ryan, for commenting. Thank you to Mike for commenting as well. Jennifer as well. I think was the other one in the chat, and my sister Abby, I guess, was in the chat as well. So thank you for all of that, and thank you for your support. I really appreciate you guys supporting me on all this. And anxiety, it's a real thing. Having anxiety, it really is a bad thing. It really takes you over sometimes. But I feel good today. I really do. I don't have any anxiety right now, so I got over it luckily yesterday. But yeah, besides that, thanks for listening to me ramble about my feelings on all these 8 questions and the debate itself. Anyways, and yeah, so besides that, I guess just have a good rest of the weekend, and I will talk to you guys later.